Hey guys, I want to talk to you about my favorite thing in child psychology too, and that's developing preschool learning activities. When we start thinking about preschool learning activities, the first thing you want to think about is a theme. So many preschools are theme-based, and we are in Trojan Tots. We typically choose a theme for the week and then base all of our activities off of that. So there's a couple of things you want to think about when looking at themes. First of all, the theme needs to be broad. So sometimes we have up to 30 different activities for a specific theme. So I wrote some themes at the bottom here that we've used in the past, like around the world, springtime, or outer space. Sometimes you can use themes like apples or firefighters, but for our purposes, to come up with 30 different activities for firefighters or apples is a little bit challenging. So we like to be a little bit broader, like maybe we would do fruit or community helpers instead. And then it needs to be something that most preschoolers are interested in. So it has to be something that's interesting to both boys and girls and children that are ages 3, 4, and 5. One challenge that we've run into before is assuming that all preschoolers watch movies or TV shows. And so we might have a theme about Frozen or Disney movies, and some of the preschoolers have never even seen a movie. So it has to be something that all preschoolers or children of preschool age would be interested in. Once you choose your theme, then you want to think about the learning area. Now, learning area is a term that you're going to want to remember. It's basically the subjects that we teach in a preschool classroom. So after you come up with the theme, you want to develop activities for multiple learning areas. And I'll go through 8 of them that we commonly use in our classroom. First one is math. So preschoolers are not going to be doing things like addition tables or multiplication, but they are going to be doing things like patterns. So you might do red, red, blue, red, red, blue, or you might have them using beads on a pipe cleaner to make a pattern. You also might have them working on recognizing written numbers. So Layla and I did an activity the other day where I wrote numbers all over our driveway, and then I had her run to the letter 3, run to the letter 9. They could also be doing things like sorting, so sorting by object, sorting by size, sorting by shape, or even organizing things in order from smallest to largest. They might be doing things like measuring. So you can see that meteor measurement activity at the bottom there. Using objects to measure would be developmentally appropriate for preschoolers, and then actually counting the objects. So do they know what a 4 looks like? And then can they hand me 4 rocks, for example? The second one is science. And lots of times we think about experiments in science, but science can have anything to do with nature, anything to do with space, anything to do with animals. And then oftentimes we might be looking at things like cause and effect or prediction in our science activity. And right there, that moon rock science, maybe you start talking about moon rocks and then you have them create the moon rocks by using those materials at the bottom. Another learning area is literacy. This is probably one of the most important. This is one that all kindergarten teachers want them to have exposure to. So by kindergarten, children should know their letters, know some letter sounds, and be able to write their name. So those are things that we always work on. So can preschoolers identify actual written letters? So if I point to that red box, can they tell me that that's a W? And then letter sounds. Maybe we might be practicing that the W makes the w sound. And then depending on their age, they might be tracing letters. So if they're younger or have less experience, they might be tracing over a dotted letter. Or they might be writing letters, or maybe even words if they have a lot of experience with it. They might also be looking at sight words. Sight words are typically commonly used words like the, and, am, I, and then reading stories to children belong in literacy. Dramatic play is one where we might prepare a couple things for them to use, like that rocket ship, and then have them explore different roles and careers in that learning area. Next, we have music and movement. So a bunch of different things we can do there. Singing songs, using instruments, working on rhythm, or moving our bodies purposefully. Children tend to move their bodies a lot, but they don't always do it purposefully. So we might be practicing walking on a taped line on the floor, or spinning without falling, or lifting up one foot and holding it up for 3 seconds. Then we have art, which is one of the most fun to do. We want to make sure that we're having children use lots of different art mediums. So one thing that I found when I first started teaching this class is many children come to us and they have never held a scissors before, or they've never used liquid glue or paint. Sometimes those things families don't have at home, or maybe the parents are a little bit scared that they're going to make a mess, so they don't get exposure to that. So we want to expose them to that and help encourage their creativity and imagination. Now, this marbled planet activity would be one where you would put white paper in the bottom of a bucket, some paint, and have the tots roll marbles around. Depending on their age, they might be able to cut out the circle, but it depends. Layla is almost 3. We've been using scissors for about 6 months, and right now she is only able to cut a straight line, so I would probably have to cut out the circles for her and let her glue them down. And then the last two are motor skills. I know you learned about these in Child Psychology 1. Large motor or gross motor is when you use your whole body. Small motor is when you use your fingers. So that might be something like using a clothespin or a tweezers or putting beads on a pipe cleaner. At the bottom there, we've got astronaut training. So that would take them through a bunch of gross motor or large motor skills. And then the last one is social skills. So oftentimes preschoolers have only a few playmates, maybe a sibling or a parent. And so we do need to actually teach them how to work with their peers. So we want to give them opportunities to do things like teamwork. So maybe they're using that sensory box at the bottom there to help role play and free the astronauts from the moon sand with a partner. They might need to talk or communicate to put a puzzle together as a team. And then also emotions. So preschoolers experience tons of emotions, but they don't always know how to identify them. So you might do something where you read a story and ask them about different emotions that the character is feeling, have them make the faces of the different emotions, or share a story about a time that they felt those. After you choose your theme and your activity, then you have to think about your objective. So all activities that the kids do need to have a goal, and we use the term objective. All activities also need to introduce new learning or an opportunity to practice a developmentally appropriate skill. You should refer back to the preschool development packet that I provided you with during week 2 that you made the Quizlet on if you're unsure of any of what might be developmentally appropriate. And then the last thing about objectives is they need to be measurable. So they need to be something that you can either see or hear. So let me give you some examples. I might have this sensory table as my activity. So depending on what the activity is or what I'm going to have them do, my objective might be that the preschoolers will sort the stars by color. It might be that the preschoolers will work with a teammate to get the astronaut out of the moon sand using a large tweezers. It could be something like the preschoolers will match the planets to maybe the written name of the planet that I have set on the opposite side. So it could be lots of different things. It might be that they will I don't know, describe what the different things feel like. So the preschoolers, it has to be a skill or something that they are actually working on during your activity. Now, sometimes if you haven't had experience working with preschool age, you don't really know what is developmentally appropriate. So the one on the right, the Catch a Star, is developmentally appropriate. The one on the left, the Space Stories, isn't. Let me explain why. So when we look at the Catch a Star one, first of all, they're using their small motor skills to use that yellow magnet to pick up the letters based on what they see. Then they're going to match the letter to the written letter below it. They might also then use a marker to trace the letter. The one on the left, the space stories, isn't appropriate because they can't write. They also don't have the ability to create stories or really like the thought process to create a story from the beginning to the end. And then lastly, when you're rounding out your lesson, you want to think about an opening. So you're going to start your lesson off with something fun. Maybe it's a little video that you find on YouTube, or you show some pictures, or you have some questions for them about their previous learning, or maybe you read a book about outer space. Then you want to give very clear instructions on your activity. Oftentimes you're going to want to demonstrate, especially if you're using materials that might be new, and then you actually have to teach. So you're not going to just set something in front of the tots. You want to actually teach them how to do it. And then at the end, you want to end your lesson with a quick check for understanding. Think about your objective. Did all of the children meet it? And if not, make sure that you check in with all of the kids to make sure that they do. I hope that helps you understand how to develop activities for preschool age a little bit more, and that you enjoyed the Exploring Preschool Activities assignment that's next.